Hello and welcome to Jill HB and Friends. I'm Jill Harvey-Bush, and in this episode, I'm talking all about care homes. How do you go about finding a care home? How do you know if the care home's right for you or for a loved one? When should you start actually kind of considering even looking at care homes? What's the process behind it? And to help me do this, I'm talking to Will Hammond, who is the client liaison manager for Silvermere Care Home near Weybridge. But I think it's technically Cobham. Would I be right, Will?
hmm Technically Cobham, but yeah, it's all a very close area. So my name's Will Hammond. So I am the client liaison manager at Silvermere Care Home. We are an Avery care home. So Avery is a company that people may be familiar with because it's in the UK. It's one of the lead care companies. It's got over 100 homes all the way from Eastbourne up to Sunderland. But my role and responsibility is our home in Cobham, Silvermere. And client liaison manager is quite a vague title. Probably needs, but you can break it down. Literally, it says what it is on the tin. My role is to engage and communicate primarily with families when they are, as you say, at the start of their journey of thinking about or have been told that they should consider care homes for a loved one or for themselves. And really just guiding them through that process all the way through to the admission and then helping them settle in and come into the home, whether that's respite or permanent, which we'll come into the different types of stays you can have in care homes. But I agree with you. The most common thing that I am told when someone first comes to me is that they don't know what they're doing. And that is not a criticism or something to be ashamed of, because you live your life. You think by the time you hit, 60s or 70s, you've done everything you need to do in life. You've grown up, you've bought a house, you've raised your children, you've sent them to kids, you've traveled the world. And then suddenly you get a phone call that you need to put mum or dad or an aunt or an uncle or another family member into a care home. And it is a whole new world, It's like learning a new language. It's a completely different prospect. And it is such a big change in such a big world. There are so many care homes. There are so many different options. There's care homes. There's having care at home, which is a different concept, which we can go into. And that's what my role is. My role is to support and reassure. And even though I am contracted and work for my care home as a health professional, it's my duty to support families in finding the right place for their loved one. And it's not been. I've had situations before where I've suggested other places which will be more suitable, whether they're more specialised, because again, different care homes offer different provisions. Some do nursing, some do residential, some specialised. Again, we'll dive into deeper. But that is essentially my role, is to help a family member who really needs that help to help put a loved one into social care.
Absolutely. And I think you made a good distinction there between a nursing home and a care home. And sometimes I know with my mother-in-law, she was she went into a care home, and that was over in Maidstone. She went into a care home, and then she was getting towards end of life. And they sort of said she really now should be in a nursing home, but we don't want to move her. We only think it's, a matter of months. And they were very good. They had the nurse come in daily, and we then didn't have to move her at that point into a nursing home, because it's huge, isn't it? When somebody is having to give up their own home or their belongings, there's a huge amount of fear, both for the family side and for the person who's having to move into the home. And as you say, it's like, where do we start with this? Which homes do we look at? It is a rabbit in headlights moment unless you think about it well in advance. So what was your advice? We, go and check, as we did. We suddenly had to make appointments and run around care homes to try and work out, well, what's the difference? And this one looks lovely, but this one's got a better atmosphere. This one's big, this one's small. Running around the help. And you were very good in helping us try and decide. What happens when somebody first contacts you?
Yeah, you're right. You've mentioned the most important step. The first step is to try and see as many different places as you can, and we fully understand that might not be possible. For example, if you are looking for a care home in Surrey, but you live in Norfolk or
well, I'm in
Scotland
Devon
or somewhere,
so...
well, itself in Devon. So most places will be able to offer virtual tours or will send brochures. But it is just having to find that time to really go and see a place. I am of the genuine belief that the place that you eventually choose, you will go and visit it, and you will come out of it, and you will have that gut feeling that that's the right place for not only for your loved one, but for the family as well. Essentially, really outstanding care is a triangle between the resident, the family, and the home itself, and it has to be transparent, and it has to work for all three. It has to have the lines of communication. So it has to be a place that, because as a home here, and this is something we do at Silvermere, when a resident joins us, we also take on their family, because we don't have visiting hours. We do lots of activities and events that we welcome the families, because it's not this is a continuation of their life, right? This is the next step of their life. We want the families to be involved in that. This isn't an exclusive club for just residents. All the care homes and all social care operates on the family being involved as well, because we understand that the family are a massive support branch. So yes, that first step is really going to look at as much different ones. Before you do that, you can do things to filter your search, because there are a huge number of different care homes, and we fully understand that can be overwhelming. So you can filter down. The first kind of decision you need to make is, does my loved one need nursing care, or does my loved one need residential care? So in as simple as I can make it, without kind of over making things too detailed, residential care is essentially personal care. So helping to feed, helping to wash, helping to move, helping to someone to retain their kind of independence in their life, help them to continue the life they want to keep living. Nursing care is kind of the jump up from that. So nursing care homes will have qualified nurses on site. Residential care homes won't have that. So nursing care there are certain things that nurses can do that trained care staff can't do. So it might be stuff to do with peg feeding, or catheters, or oxygen supply in the home. And nursing care is for individuals who sadly might have a more unstable health, or kind of unpredictable health, and require a nurse to be on site and a much regular periods. Residential care homes, as we do have here at Silvermere, may be visited by district nurses, or may have the GP come in once a week, but there is quite a clear difference between kind of how much nursing need is there, and that will come down to kind of the health of your loved one. And if they are in a hospital, or even if they are transitioning from home, you should be able to ask health professionals like GP, doctors, nurses, what are my needs? But so having said all of that, there is still always a fine line between residential care and nursing care. And so what we often have, and what we also often encourage, is start at a residential care home, because a nursing care home will always be able to meet your needs, because it's a higher provision of care. Whereas residential care home, although it's a kind of a lower threshold, a residential care home will be able to tell you if they can meet your loved one's needs, or if they would recommend a nursing home. So by going to a residential care home, you will have the answer. There are also care homes that offer both residential and nursing, so that is kind of your complete kind of like safety. Here at Silvermere, we only offer residential, and our main advantage for that is that we can create a complete social and active atmosphere. Because all of our residents are out of their bedrooms, they're joining in with our activities, our trips, our events, going into the home. So that first step of really filtering down your choices will be helpful. But the key really to this kind of question and this kind of first step is to go in and pop in and just see as many homes as you can, because once you start meeting the managers, meeting the staff, meeting the people, then you will really get that genuine feeling of, okay, this is the person, this is the environment I want my loved one to be in, surrounded by the people that I've met. And that's kind of when you'll start to really become certain in the home that you're going to choose.
I mean, as you say, it's often as well that the person who you're choosing the home for doesn't come with you. I know that was with my mother-in-law. My husband and his sister were running around the homes and then trying to give her a choice and deciding. And because obviously in that situation, you can sometimes get family members that disagree. So I think you're very much as well in the middle, aren't you? When you say you're managing a family as well as the person who's coming in. There are, which I'm well aware of, family disagreements. about what should happen,
Hmm.
or should mum or a loved one go into a care home, or then there's somebody trying to protect the finances, and there's somebody saying no,
Yeah.
they need care at home. And we were in the situation that we'd done the care at home, carers coming and going, and it actually wasn't what was required. It was more than that was required. And that's when I
Hmm.
think the hospital then sort of saw the roundabout or revolving door, if you like, and sort of said to us, no, this is what's now required. So we were steered by them to start with. And then that's
Mm.
coming to you to find out actually what do we need. And the hospital gave us the first kind of hint of no, she just needs care. She doesn't need full-time nursing. As with my mother-in-law, she just needs
Hmm.
full-time care. And some of that really, interestingly, I think, is also around loneliness.
Yeah. So that's one of the core differences between care at home and care
Mm.
in a care home is that the actual care side of things will be quite similar in terms of whether you're at home
Hmm.
or whether you're receiving care in a care home. The biggest difference that we find for residents who have both had care at home and have been in our care home is that social environment and that difference in social environment. So if you are at home and receiving care, you will be visited by your carers typically daily, 3, 4 times a
Hmm.
day. There are some companies that offer living carers, which is kind of like a more advanced
Hmm.
version. But even so, you still have a limited kind of like social environment around you.
Correct.
Whereas if you come into a care home, the care you're receiving is going to be of a similar level, but the real advantage is that you are now surrounded by 30, 40, 50, different people, all of quite in a similar situation. And because the homes was a home, so the homes will have daily activities, and which you'll be able to engage in. But aside from that as well, just coming to lunch every day and sitting down
Correct.
at a table of six or other ladies or gents, or can we have a conservatory? So come and sitting in the conservatory with a morning coffee and a cup of tea and reading the newspaper, and there being other people to talk to who are equally sitting there fully appreciative of you being there because they have someone to talk to. And we talk about loneliness, and actually the power of conversation
It's
as well is
huge.
just completely underrated.
Yeah.
Why I've worked with activity coordinators before and said, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't want to do this, but resident or this resident, they're not very active. Just have a conversation with them. Just find out their interests and talk to them. That's really power. Keeps the mind going. Keeping the mind alive and keeping the mind active is really powerful. So, we, as an extension to that, we often have cases where residents will go home because they think they're ready to go home again, and they will go home, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, I'll get a phone call from the son or the daughter saying, "It's just mum or dad, they're really missing it. They're really missing it. They're able to cope, but they're really missing the ability to be back in an environment where they have lots of people they can engage with. They can have a full day of activity." As opposed to being at home and kind of not having the opportunity to be active and engaged, but just not having as many people around all the time that naturally they can go and engage with. So that is a key difference and an advantage that people find coming into the care home, even if the care side of things isn't perhaps not always the most pressing
Yeah,
issue.
it's also reassurance. So my mother-in-law, for example, if I take her as an example, she was in her 90s, she was living in her own flat and she seemed to be fine, but then she started to have panic attacks, palpitations at night. So she was really
Mm-hmm.
suffering at night, and then we would bring her to stay with us in Weybridge and she'd be fine, she wouldn't have anything. And then we realized actually it's that fear, that reassurance at night that was also important, that somebody else was around, that she wasn't there on her own. And even though she had the button that she could push, but it was just somebody to know that was there. Her fear
Mm-hmm.
as well was, well, I don't know what a care home's like. And
Mm.
because of what I do as a mindset coach, she never shared that. My mother-in-law was the swan, so always very calm on top, never really said anything, and that as a family. And I just very gently was chatting to her when she was staying with us, and I found out one of the biggest fears that she had was she didn't know what a care home was like. And if I have to go into one, what's it going to be like? And I want to know, if I lose my mind, if I get dementia, I want to know what it's like. And that's when, luckily, we
Mm-hmm.
had one of the GPs that was in Weybridge, and I could kind of give a bit more information and said, look, we knew that you could do respite care, which, as you say, we'll touch on. And I said to her, look, why don't you just go in and have like a holiday in one of the care homes so you can get a feel for what that's like. So then we can banish that fear, if you like, and that anxiety, because that's what it was that was creating this kind of panic in her at night. So she said, can I do that? And I said, yes, yes, absolutely. You can go and book in, for a couple of weeks and then find out what it's like. And she was like, oh, I think I'd really like to do that. Then I'll know what to expect. So that's what we did. We booked her into a care home. Again, within a week, she was like a different person. She had something to talk about. Oh, Mrs. So-and-so always likes her sherry at night. She gets very upset when she doesn't have a sherry. And so-and-so in his wheelchair, he likes to go out in the garden every day. And she was full of life again. And she admitted when she came out, I feel such a relief because now I know if I have to go into a care home or I want to go into a care home, I now know what it's like. So it was just giving her those 2 weeks, changed her mindset, changed all her fear, anxiety, and then I think made her realise, there's family stuff there. So she went to live with my sister-in-law for a while, but I think was missing that company that we're talking about during the day. You can join it if you want to. You can go and find a quiet space if you want to. And that, you can't put a price on that. As I say, as a mindset coach, I know how important, well, we talk about it now, don't we? Loneliness in younger people as well is huge. So what is the difference then, as you say? How do you accept somebody for respite care? Can they come, as we did, to one home and say, can we just book in for 2 weeks? And they were like, yes, by no means, it's not a problem.
So respite is a really important concept to kind of taking your first steps into kind of living in a care home. And again, that is, as you've touched on, a lot of people use it as a trial period, as a trial to understanding whether this could be a permanent option. And because of that, it does carry a lot of flexibility. So every care home will do it slightly differently and will have their own system. At Silvermere, we offer respite from 2 weeks to 6 weeks. So the reason for that is 2 weeks is probably the bare minimum that you can really understand whether you kind of fit in this environment. Even 2 weeks goes very quickly. We actually do an offer of 4 weeks for the price of 3. 4 weeks is probably the perfect period because yes, you have on the side, you have that financial incentive that you have a week's care off. But after 4 weeks, your loved one, but as a family, you will also know you'll be really kind of like understanding of the care home, understanding of the system, understanding of how everything works, and you will see whether this could be considered as a long-term option. Respite. Some people come in because they're going on holiday. Some people come in because they've just come out of hospital and they need a bit more of a supported environment for a little bit. Some people come because they want to do that trial. The key, really, as I mentioned, is flexibility. There is no kind of like hidden writing or kind of like expectation that you then convert to permanent residency immediately. That's not to say it doesn't happen. It is quite common for an individual to have respite care and then transfer permanently if they are in the stage where they were considering it as a long-term option anyway. But it is really a good opportunity just to try in a different environment that you might not come back to for 6 months or a year or 2 years. But what it is, and it's the same as kind of going out and looking at these places, is getting ahead of the game, because very sadly, we can't predict the future, and that includes our immediate future. We have had residents who were walking down the stairs, slipped on a scarf, broke their hip, and suddenly their whole life has changed and they need to be in an environment. And having had that opportunity to try the environment or kind of see the environment or have a look around the environment, it gives them a little bit of comfort because it gives them a little bit of understanding of kind of like before, things happen at a pace. So what I'm not saying is that I'm not trying to put fear into anybody that you need to start booking and looking around. But what I'm also saying is that if you do have somebody who you are beginning to consider what the future might look like, it is always more of an advantage to start just doing some research, start looking around, and then having this understanding of this respite period. And then you might have, we've got a family holiday, in next year. I was thinking of asking the neighbours to pop round, or I was thinking of, trying to sort out some day centres care or whatnot. But actually, I can put my loved one into a care home for a few weeks whilst we're away. and then I also get to see and understand how they respond to it. And then this kind of leads me on to kind of that the conversation we've been having about people's expectations of care homes and what they think care homes are like. And I think, again, it's something that has changed rapidly over the years, especially the activities that care homes offer. You know, we've had, we've had all sorts of things. We've had Brazilian dancers, samba dancers in. We've had animals in. We've had singers, entertainers in. We do trips out to local museums and whatnot. And I think, you know, there was a time when people thought care homes were Sudoku and bingo and watching Countdown. But now, especially for us as a residential home, where people remain completely social and active, they just need that supportive environment. We have a high expectation and demand to deliver an activities program that is, you know, really out there and kind of pushes the limits and allows people to remain as social and active as they want to be. So what care homes will often always do is they will have community days, or they will have open days, or they will have days where you can just bring someone along. So we're not talking about respite here. We're talking about kind of like one day events, or, you know, it will be a summer fair, it will be a Christmas fair. It's what we do at Silvermere, where you can come in, you can enjoy the event going on, but you can also get to know the environment and get to speak to people like myself or home managers, how things work. So again, my recommendation for anybody listening to this who is kind of at the start of that journey is to just start opening doors and just start looking and doing researches and visiting websites and stuff. And there are both kind of independent websites. So carehome.co.uk is a very reputable and well-known independent ratings website where you can filter geographically and, you know, all different ways. But then once you kind of access that website, go onto their own company pages and social media pages. Most likely they'll have a Facebook or they'll have an Instagram where they'll show really what's going on. And just see when's the next opportunity that you can pop into these care homes. And just it is just slowly starting that progress. I'll kind of finish this whole point with an example. We've just converted a resident permanently today, so January, but who came to us in September last year. So over 4 or 5 months, you know, they've popped in every so often, and then as their needs have become more kind of like to be in a care home permanently, just by starting that journey, you know, so far in advance and having, you know, these visits and then having a little bit of respite and then coming permanently, they've done that full journey where it's really supported them now living with us as a permanent resident, because they started that journey so far in advance.
Absolutely. I'm definitely coming to your Christmas one, seeing the buffet on on Facebook. I was like, when Jen said, "Oh yeah," I was like, "I'm coming to that." But it's also them settling, isn't it, as you say, so they can come in. And unfortunately, I think there's an age group. I remember my grandmother going into a care home. So I was younger, and those beliefs then stay with you, those images of what your grandparents' care home was like is what brings the fear when we get older. And my grandmother's care home was not brilliant. I mean, I don't know what care homes were like then. This was my only experience of my own grandmother going in. And, you know, it had the horrible smell that everybody thinks you're going to get of, you know, that very horrible kind of smell, chairs just sitting around in a room with a TV on in the corner and residents just kind of left there. And that's kind of the image that you get that then stays with a generation now, having seen that of our own grandparents, of the type of level of care home back then. We're now the ones getting to the age of thinking about our own care homes, thinking, and that stays with you of don't dump me in a care home, isn't it? Rather than actually what you offer is great. It's like a 5-star hotel.
And the only thing I completely agree with that, and there will be stuff on documentaries and Panorama and all sorts, and people and in the media, and that the only stories that are reported are when CQC has gone in, and the only answer I can give is come in and have a look and make your own judgments. You know, we had CQC in recently, and we were good in all areas. But even that, I would still say, well, come and have a look, because I can give you that. But I would rather, actually, people we've had, in terms of in terms of booking a show around and whatnot, you can phone up and you can sort of time out that is suitable for you and suitable for the home. But actually, I also encourage people just to walk in off the street unannounced, because the home that you walk into should be the same home that is presented throughout the
That's
whole of a potential stay there. So it is it is completely understandable to have your knowledge and from what you've seen or what you've experienced in your former life, but until you've really visited in person and you've made your own judgments, that's how. And actually, what we will do on show rounds and quite often is that I will, because you can show off all the wonderful facilities and you can show off all the chandeliers and you can show off all the the notice boards and the activities, but I will actually take people up to staff. I will take people up to current residents, and I will let them just say what they want to, because that's what you really want. You want to understand, you want to know current people's experience of their stay in the home. So you have to make your own judgments. You have to do your own understandings, and every person, every resident that comes is going to have a slightly different situation, whether it's different healthcare needs or different wants out of their stay. And so by visiting, by making your own judgments, by doing try before you buy in terms of kind of respites and stuff, and also coming to our community events, you are maximizing your opportunities to really grow your understanding of the home and of its surroundings. Because yes, of course, we will share our 5-star reviews and we will put up stuff on our social media and Facebook pages. But we know that every day not the criticisms, but the things we can improve are as equally as important as the things that we celebrate. And that's also important to mention is that we work as hard to improve our challenges as we do celebrating our successes. And it is, again, I go back to that triangle between the resident, the family, and the home. That is essentially the most important thing. And when you are looking for a care home, what I always say is, don't focus on the chandeliers, focus on the care staff, because it's the person who's going to be doing the personal care that really matters, not how amazing the home is looking. And yes, we want care homes now, interestingly, are being built like 5-star hotels, and it's brilliant to walk into a building and to be surrounded by this high quality. But the actual importance of the quality is the people and the care that's provided. So that's what we focus on at Silvermere. We focus on building. Yes, we have a really lovely building that's off by the lake, and we've got garden views, but we focus on kind of like our values of care, of honesty, of support, of accountability, of respect, because that really fills through the team we have here, and that's what we hold ourselves accountable to in itself in supporting our residents.
I also think it's when you're looking at care homes, and that was with my mother-in-law as well, it's actually how that home then responds to you once you've been in, and how quickly they respond to you. I must say you responded really fast. By the time I got back to my sister's with her, and we're having a cup of tea. Oh, blimey, got an email. Whereas some other homes that we went to, they took like a week to come back to us, 10 days to come back to us. And then there was one person calling, oh, sorry, did you speak to that? No, I've spoken to that person and told them that we've got something sorted. And then you get another phone call. And for me personally, that's indicative of how they're keeping track of things within the home, their own organization.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I tell so when people come and look around Silvermere, I don't discourage them from looking around other places, because you have to find variance and you have to find what you're really looking for. But I do say that if you pick up the phone and they don't pick up the phone, or you don't get a call back, that is the first sign of the communication within the home. And so the person in my role, so I'm a client liaison manager, but you might come across a client services manager or a customer relationship manager. Different companies have different roles, but that is that first person, and I hold my standards as what a family should expect in terms of being communicated with. But that goes across both. Once a resident is admitted, I will kind of pass them on to kind of like the care team or the care management team. And again, you should hold communication standards very high. And yes, you can, as an inquirer and as a family, you can understand, and people do. We're very fortunate that we are a very busy environment, and things happen, and we do have, your home, depending how big the home is, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, even residents that, are all need the same treatment, but you are paying for the service that we are providing, that we hold our standards for, and that includes at the core of it good communication and good phone and email manner. The only thing, but getting to know the family is as important as getting to know the resident, because we want to know, who should we call, how often should we call, do you want to be disturbed at night unless it's a complete emergency, how involved do you want to be? Yes, we take on a huge amount of responsibility, so we'll take on all the medication, and that's a huge burden off the family's back, and we will make sure that we look after their loved one. But this isn't a care home. Has to be an open door, like a revolving door policy. We have to have people involved as much as or as little as they want to be involved, because we are essentially supporting and managing somebody's, not just their healthcare needs, but their lifestyle and their involvement, and so often we get asked, oh, can I get pop in this, or do I need to book, or do I need to do that? Kind of, just let us know. Just let us know. Like, this isn't. We're not taking you away. It's not a rehabilitation center. It's not like a
prison.
It's not. Do you know what? The one question I always get when on show-arounds is, they're allowed to drink alcohol, aren't they? Yes, they are allowed to drink alcohol. Yes, they can have wine at lunch and they can have wine at dinner. And I've got a resident who has a mini fridge in her room. Like, we are here to support the continuation of their next life. This isn't kind of like a secured environment unless their health needs and their care needs dictate it to be so. So, the families are incredibly important, and you should hold us to high expectations. And we will always be able to explain and justify our responses and our answers. And we are obviously held to account by CQC and whatnot and everything. But yes, when you're first looking, if you pick up the phone and somebody doesn't answer, or you get delayed, or you get transferred to different people, that is kind of the first indications of this might not be. No matter what it says online and stuff, we come back to this point of
communication.
Until you start making your own inquiries, and you start kind of thinking about different places, and you come to your own judgment. That's what you will be most comfortable with. You always go on your judgment, and B, you can, as I say, you can read all the reviews online, but you need to come to your own decisions.
Because everybody's different, everybody's unique, but the clue is in the word home. I think that's the big word, isn't it? It's their home, and it would be our home as a family to go and visit them. So it's an extension of our own home. So I think that's also really, really important. I mean, cost obviously comes into it, and there's all sorts of discussions around that with the family. So in some ways, a care home, if I was to look, difficult when you're younger to say, start building your pension really early, because you never know what you're going to need at the end of your life to help pay for things, so.
It's a difficult situation because, I mean, you look at house prices today. So we will often have residents who are now, 90, 80, and were buying their houses 60 years ago in like the 40s and the 50s, when you could buy a 3-bed house for
a couple of thousand,
£10,000 or whatever now. And, they have saved their money. And, we completely understand that finances is a huge part of it. And it is something that you need to have in order. We're not going to get into politics on this
absolutely.
part, but so the key number, the magic number is £23,250, and it is important to know that that's not just cash, that's capital as well, so including property and stuff. If you have above that amount of money, you will always be considered a self-funder.
Yeah.
There was a plan in the previous government to raise that number to 100,000. It got scrapped. Which is obviously a big hit to lots of people. But that's the key number. A local authority, so for us it's Surrey County Council, will not be interested in supporting you or helping to support you until you fall below that threshold. So yes, when you are looking at these care homes, you need to consider a longer term future. You don't know how long it's going to be. We at Silvermere and other care homes will only take on a permanent resident if they can evidence that they have at least 2 years of funding. Because what we don't want, and especially for the resident, we don't want them to move in, and we don't want to have them to move out 2 months later. Yes, we are a care home. Yes, we are here to support your care, support your needs. But for us in the private industry, we are
You're
a business as well. We
absolutely.
have bills, we have expenses. There is local authority support. There are homes that are fully local authority funded. Where we are in the world right now, the private industry, as in lots of different industries, the private sector is taking over and is becoming more prominent. And 100% in a wonderful ideal world, local authority support and funding would be more prominent. But as the situation is, and we have to play the field how it is, that's the situation that we find ourselves in. So yes, again, different areas of the country will have different average of fundings at different prices. And again, that's just very similar to cost of living. I'm speaking to you from Cobham in Surrey, so we are the most expensive places to live.
Don't I know it? Devon can't be far behind you.
So it is. There are huge amounts, and that will impact your decision of where you want to bring mum or dad to a care home. There might be family members living in cheaper areas of the country, but as much as finances is important, you also have to respect their wishes and their values. And if they have lived in Surrey their whole life, for example, they might want to stay in Surrey. So that is, again, comes down to doing your research, looking into all these different care homes. Yes, there are going to be obvious differences from care homes that charge £1,600 a week compared to £1,200 or £1,000 a week, and that's going to be quite evident when you look around it. But you have to, you have to have an element of longer term planning. And for the moment, as again residents coming in who have these savings from house prices or selling property or whatnot, we're probably okay. In the next 60, 70 years, when I'm looking for a care home, then I don't know what the landscape will look like. But we are all going to be looking for care at some point, and care homes will always be there. But I think the most important thing, and I think the key thing, is that we will always. It's never going to be a flat no or go or we can't accept you. There is always going to be support. There is always going to be negotiation. There is always going to be direction to kind of like people who can support you or where you want to go. That's really something that we really value. I value myself, is that I will never go put the phone down. No, can't help you. I will always be able to direct you in different directions, because as you say, it's not just healthcare, it's personal circumstances and finances as well. Everybody is different, and what care homes cannot become is they cannot become a place of support for just a higher threshold or people of a higher income. And that's very much going to be down to powers above care homes in itself. So it is important for us all to consider in the future. But yeah, the most important thing is that there will always be, from a first inquiry, there will always be a channel of a network of support and directions. And that is kind of the reason why we kind of wanted to do this podcast, but to just to get people to understand that. Do go into care homes, do phone up care homes. There will always be someone in my position to have that conversation with you. And if anybody is listening to this podcast in the Cobham or the Weybridge or the Surrey area, and just want to have the conversation, as I say, you can contact the home. All our details are online, and I'll give them to Jill as well to share. But we are here to have that conversation and to just push you in the right direction. But it's really been valuable to come on and talk about the role and talk about the as we say, demystifying this whole kind of scary journey into looking into care. And we look at your sister, the lovely Jen, who is now with us permanently, and looked around care homes, started on a respite, is now with us permanently. And we've just been discussing about how we're going to get her massive bookcase into her room. So it does work. The right people are there to support you in this journey, and we are here to help you and support you.
Well, all I can say is thank you very much for coming on the podcast. Personally, thank you very much for all the support and help you've given me and my other sister. We are sisters of three, with having to sort things out. And also it's been really beneficial when somebody has lived abroad for years, as my sister has, and doesn't have a huge network of friends. And I think it's magical. Will, thank you very much. I would like to have you back at some point in the future, and we can cover some more topics.
We can certainly.
But I know you're a busy man. You've got to get going. So as I say, we'll put all the details on, and then people can actually contact you from that. So thank you very much indeed for spending time talking to me this morning.
Oh, thank you.
I think there's a couple of things I've taken away from talking to Will this morning, and that it is actually never too early to start looking at care homes, whether that's for you in the future, whether that's for a loved one. It's about going when you don't have to do it in a rush, so that you can check them out, go to their community days, which is something I didn't realise if you weren't part of the home and the wider circle that you could just do. Go in, get to know people, talk to the residents, so you get a real feel of what a care home is like. So I'd very much like to thank Will, and it's Will Hammond, who is the Custom Liaison Manager for Silvermere Care Home, which is on, I believe, Red Hill Road, Cobham. And if you want to contact him direct, his email is silvermere.csm@averyhealthcare.co.uk. So that's silvermere.csm@averyhealthcare.co.uk. The website, if you'd like to check out all the Avery Healthcare homes as well as Silvermere, is averyhealthcare.co.uk, then /care-homes, and then /Silvermere. The other website that Will mentioned with regards to checking out care homes is carehome.co.uk. So that's carehome.co.uk. I hope you found this useful. Thank you very much for listening. If you would like to make sure that you get all of my podcasts, then of course you go ahead and hit that subscribe button and you'll be notified of when the next episode is ready for you to listen to. So thank you once again, and here's to the next one.